Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
What is up, everybody? Week 2 is in the books. It wasn't pretty. I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest, but have to show up every Tuesday night. Welcome back. We're Fantasy Fanline, and Sinker, I hope week 2 is a little better for you than it was for me. How you doing, man?
I mean, I'm doing great, but yeah, my team's not so great, man. I don't know. It's a rough week. I don't know. It's the league I care about the most, man. I got back-to-back lowest scores. I don't know. It's walk of shame, but you know what? It's still early, and we can get right. So,
Yeah, and I heard there's a little stipulation for having the lowest score in that league, but we'll wait a couple minutes on that. If you haven't know, if you're living under a rock, Nick Chubb wasn't good, hard to watch. Don't watch that. He was one of my guys. It's depressing. I had him in a high stakes league. I had exposure to Nick Chubb everywhere, but that comes with the game, and we're gonna have to move forward and bounce back and trust the process. It sucks, but the show must go on. Without further ado, we're gonna bring in our guest, a friend of Sinker. Actually, I'm in a league with him. He's a great guy. He's been playing fantasy for a while. Tyler Stevens, aka T Steppin. What is up, man? How you feeling?
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
T-Step, I'm doing good, man. We're doing good. Just so to prove to the people, we didn't just pick you up off the street. You wanna you wanna tell them how long you've been playing fantasy football, how you and Sinker know each other, how many leagues you guys do, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've probably been playing fantasy for around 15 years. Didn't really get into it real heavily until probably 2012, 2013. So about the last decade, I've been obsessed with it. I think that's kind of the timeline for a lot of people around my age. The early or fantasy footballers, getting everybody kind of into it. I've known Sinker for about 7 years. We know each other through some mutual friends. We play in several leagues together, have been for a long time. JC is the only person that I know in person who's obsessed with fantasy football as much as I am. So it's been really nice. I think it's kind of a rare thing to have someone that you know in person that you can share that with.
For sure, man. We're all obsessed here. You'll fit right in. Just to remind everyone, we are a call-in show. Give us a call, shoot the shit, talk some football. We got some people in the chat. Albert, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in again. Nate Shot, we got a question right away. Sink, what are your thoughts on Puka? Well, we did have that in the mailbag, so I guess I'll pull it up. Is Puka Nacua officially a must-start player every week? It's short and sweet. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Like, how are you going to watch those first 2 weeks and say, I'm going to leave that guy on the bench? If you have Puka Nacua, you drop the fab, he's going to be in your lineup every week. I'm pretty sure I saw on Reddit today that on one of the sports books, he's like 7th overall in yardage. That's insane. Just like we all drew that up. But, yeah, he's a must-start player every single week. I'll keep that one short and simple. The way he's been playing. How many targets did he have? He outmatched his target. He broke a rookie record.
Yeah, 20 targets this week, 35 total through 2 games.
Yeah, 15 grabs. We were so worried about that San Fran matchup. He puts a 30-banger up. Puka Nacua is a must-start player every week, even if Cooper Kupp's back. And I'm going to go ahead and say that with confidence. You guys all agree with me there?
Yeah, definitely.
Anything you want to add to that, Sinker?
I think it's like if I've for some reason have watched both those Rams games intensely back to back, and I think Stafford's playing at such a high level right now that it's you have to respect what he's doing and what Puka is doing. So I know Coach Kai is asking that question because I'm in a league with him and he outbid me by like I think $5. So he's throwing a little shade my way. But yeah, man, if you have Puka, like you're putting this dude in your lineup and you're feeling confident going forward with him. Also, like I mean, looking at like DraftKings and stuff like that, his price is probably going to rise now, but he was a smash last week again. So I don't know. I haven't looked at pricing yet. I don't know if you have T-Step, but he seems like he's a good play moving forward.
I think that it's kind of hard with a player like this that came in more under the radar than a lot of the people or a lot of the rookies that were coming in that were higher drafted. So it's kind of, we have to adjust our perception of how we view him because he's an objectively good football player. And I think that you can, unless you have an absolutely loaded roster, you're most likely starting him every week moving forward, even once Cup comes back.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Cup does come back, right? That's going to be the biggest thing. I also think, we don't have a question on it. Maybe someone in the chat will talk about it later, but I think Tutu Atwell is a good play as well, man. Like he's low-key getting a ton of targets as well.
He's been overshadowed because of Puka has been so ridiculous, but Tutu has been good too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monday night in Cincinnati should be a good one. Hope if Burrow plays, we'll get into Joe Burrow a little bit later. But yeah, to keep it short and sweet, Puka Nacua, you spent the fab. Congratulations. Dude's a baller, and he's a must-start player every week. It's as simple as that. We got some questions coming in the chats. Blonde Ambition. Hey, strangers. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Packers wide receivers. I sat Dobbs for his week 1 good performance and then started him for week 2, which sucked. How are you valuing him / that group? It's so hard because like that's fantasy football for you, right? You draft Dobbs as a late end bench guy. You have him on your bench to see what he can do. First week he gets targeted in the red zone. He scores 2 touchdowns. You're like, yeah, that's the red zone guy. All of a sudden it's a Reed week. They're 2 talented players. I think Reed is more talented, but Dobbs has obviously more pro experience right now. We're still waiting on the Watson news, which is who knows what the hell is going on with Christian Watson. I think both these guys should be rostered, obviously, but we need more of a sample size to valuing them. I think they're pretty close. It could be either their weeks, any given week. That's how I see it. I know some people think Reed's better. I think he's a better talent, but like you can't ignore that Dobbs was getting those touchdowns week 1, then all of a sudden Reed gets those touchdowns week 2. I would personally look towards other options, but if you had to do it, throw them in and hope it's their week. T-Step, how do you feel about the Green Bay receivers?
I'm not super high on that whole group, even including Watson. But I think even saying that once Watson comes back, I think that he might be the only comfortably or the only one that I would comfortably start on a week in and week out basis. I'm kind of looking at routes ran right now over the last 2 weeks, and nobody's had higher than a 70% or 78%. Dobbs ran 78% of the routes last week. The other guys I think once Watson comes back, so it might be a little unsettled, and I don't know how it'll really shake out.
Yeah, I'm not starting either of them with confidence. These are one of the guys you'll put into one of your flex spots, and if they score, you're happy about it, but you're not going in like, oh, this guy's smashing this week. Sinker, who's a big Watson guy. Hopefully he's back soon for all our sake. But how do you feel about Dobbs and Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of with T-Step. I'm not too high on these guys. I think the Packers and I think Love have been running extremely hot first 2 weeks. So, yeah, I was listening to JJ Zacharisa this morning, and he pointed out that Next Gen Stats has only Justin Fields as the worst completion percentage over expected on the year to Jordan Love. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. The Packers have what? They have 7. I think they have 8 touchdowns. 7 of them have been passing. That's not going to sustain throughout the season. They're going to start running the ball more. It's going to even out, which, that's going to correlate to Dobbs and these other guys. When Watson comes back, same thing. I don't know. It could be one of those groups though. Like, we could be wrong about them, but right now everything's telling me it's sell high on these guys and don't feel too confident about them. I think that everything's going to level out with the Packers here soon.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Good stuff. We got more Tommy Donuts up in the chat. We got Big Lou up in the chat. I think I missed someone over there before. Trying to show love. Steve Smith. But this one's a question for Sinker here. Hey guys, long time listener here. Sink, I would love to get your opinion on what flavor of Smirnoff Ice tastes best.
All right, so for anyone who's not in the chat, who is not in my league, if you get least amount of points every week, you have to take a Smirnoff Ice. So you guys get to enjoy this today. This is the original OG Ice. I'm gonna go put this down for you. Shout out to the league.
Bottoms up. There we go. The first Fantasy Fanline Ice. Oh, that's gross.
I'm really glad it's not me because I'm awful at chugging those things.
Yeah, that's gross.
Oh,
just like that, like a champ.
And no longer listen to my takes now. Woo!
One ice, he's lit up. All right, Big Lou coming in. I'm down Chubb with Jacobs, Dalvin, and Gibson as my running back. So I dropped $96, which is the rest of my fab on Ford. Kind of have to, right?
Yeah, we're gonna dig into the waiver wire pickups at RB. I think there's so many.
Yeah. Stay tuned, but I think
so we'll discuss
at least $80. At least $80 if you're down that many running backs.
Does Hunt being there today for a visit give either of you pause?
Yeah,
no, I think Hunt's kind of washed. Personally,
yeah, I do too. I do too. But
I think he's. I don't know. If they don't sign him, then obviously not. But it gives me pause in the sense that they immediately called him, brought him in, right, to talk to him. So I think and I'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about waiver wire. I think Ford looked fantastic when Chubb went out, and I think obviously, like as of right now, with what we know, you need to spend your fab on him. I just don't know if he profiles as a workhorse back, and there's some concern and some pause for me there. But with that said, I mean, he looked great. I wouldn't be shocked if they bring someone in to kind of run between the tackles and split some of that workload with him. Whether it's Hunt, whether it's Fournette, whether it's Akers, who knows? Like, I mean, the Browns are kind of in a win now mode, so we'll see. But that's where I'm at. I mean,
none of those guys scare me personally. Ford was a workhorse in college. I know this is the NFL and it's different, but look good. Broke off a big run. I know, what do you have, like 2-point-something yards per carry until that huge run, and it boosted him over 6. But you can't take his big plays away. People will say it's an outlier. That counts as fantasy points if you ask me. That was a nice run. Jerome Ford, if you're desperate, that's my top priority this week. We'll get more into waivers later. Big Lou, keeping the questions coming. Y'all moving DJ Moore for Puka, even after Cup comes back. I think I'm taking Puka for DJ Moore right now.
This will be a good one. This will be a good one for T-Step because he's the biggest DJ Moore truther I've probably ever met. So I'll let you go, T-Step.
Yeah, I was a huge DJ Moore. DJ Moore had an awesome prospect profile coming out of college, and it seemed like every year the excuse always was whoever the quarterback was or the offensive environment just not being able to sustain him. I'm not sure that DJ Moore is as good as I thought that he was going to be at some point in time. I really thought that there was a chance that he would ascend into the elite tier of wide receivers, especially like even going back to last year. I just really thought that he was ready to take that step forward, and it never happened. And then now he's in this offensive environment that is god awful. And I mean, frankly, like I have him in a lot of leagues, and I'm choosing to start lesser players over him on the weekly basis because I'm so concerned about his floor. I would do that in a heartbeat. If I'm being completely honest, I would, if I could do a straight DJ Moore, which is just so insane to talk or even say out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, like thinking back about what I thought about Puka Nacua literally 11 days ago, but I think that's a completely fair. I would do it.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, and that's like where I struggle the most is, you come into the season and you value DJ Moore so high and you think the Bears offense is going to be so good. And then all of a sudden you've got a guy like Puka who breaks out, week 1 week 2, all these targets. And I think you have to be successful in this game that we play is you have to shift your thinking into like, okay, well, this dude's getting the targets. The Rams look way better than everyone thought, and the Bears suck. So if someone wants to try to give you something like that, I think it's a no-brainer, right? You have to take that risk after the data that you've seen in 2 weeks.
It seems so crazy. It seems so crazy, but I think that it's right.
Yeah, I mean,
this way, Lou. Sorry, Sinker, but let me put it this way, Lou. I'm looking at bids for Matt Stafford in the leagues I have Fields in. So
yeah, and we'll get to that too, right?
Yeah,
we will get to that. A lot of people just bashing Najee in the chat. That's
bad,
valid.
man.
That's valid. I'll save that. Save you guys the hassle of pulling those up. But Jalen Warren looking good. All right, let's keep this rolling. After 2 weeks of games, is it time for fantasy managers to reassess their rosters to determine whether or not they should be panicking or patient? You can start to panic now, but it's only week 2. I don't think you should go full-blown panic mode at 0-2. I've seen teams go 0-5, 0-6, make playoff runs. I think you should be a little smarter in your decisions. And you can look at your roster to think about how you can reassess the roster, but I think patience is a virtue, and I think the only thing you can really do is either make a crazy trade or be patient with the players you drafted. Sinker, how do you feel about this question?
Yeah, I think it's just more so, kind of what I was discussing previously is just I think you need to look at your roster and kind of see where you're at. If there's dudes that you swung and missed on and it doesn't look like the opportunity is going to come, I think you need to try to start thinking of maybe, reconstructing that roster, determining like what are your highest value guys and what can you move those guys to kind of get evened out. But yeah, to your point, I mean, like I've got a roster with like Gibbs, sitting there, and I've got Trevor Lawrence. I've got guys who I believe are going to get going. They just haven't taken off yet. And for me, it's like I'm looking at this roster. I'm seeing these low scores. I'm doing ices on the podcast. Like I should be panicking, but I'm really just sitting there and I'm like, I like this roster. Could I get a little bit better in places? Yeah, but I think I can do that on the waiver wire. I think I just need to be patient with some of these guys and kind of sit back. But that roster construction could be different than something else you have. If you've got like Justin Fields, like you mentioned earlier, Sanj, like I mean you got to move away from that guy until you see otherwise, right? Like that's a product of the offense, and he might not be that good. And that was my guy, so we'll see.
You gotta switch the way you think. 2 weeks in, like. You can't just stick to your guns, how you felt before the draft. None of that matters at this point.
Right.
Week 2, Fields does not look great. That's why I'm looking at other options. I'm not dropping Justin Fields because I know what he can be. They need to design some runs for him, but you don't feel great about starting him. That's why I'm looking at Stafford. Cousins is even chilling in some leagues. That guy should be rostered everywhere. Yeah. But that's besides. T-Step, how do you feel about this?
For me, I really like it, even though it is early and a lot can still change. I like to go through and just objectively take a look at my rosters and also just how my schedule is played out. You can have leagues where your bottom 4 in scoring the first 2 weeks start 2-0. You actually have a trash squad, but you feel okay because you won the first 2 weeks. And it can be the opposite can be true, where you can have an excellent squad, but went up against a tough schedule. Really just looking through and trying to be truly honest with yourself about where you're sitting. And then even beyond that, the points don't always show exactly how your team is performing. I was telling JC yesterday, like in our primary league that we have, I have a roster that had 102 total combined opportunities, targets, and rushing attempts, and I scored 2 touchdowns across the whole roster. You can't, that's just running bad. I think that roster is probably fine. It's just looking at it and being honest with yourself about how good or bad the roster is, and you can kind of move from there. I think that we can't overthink things because it is only the second week, but then again, if I know we can come back from 0-5 or 0-6 starts, but with every week that you're stacking up losses, it gets harder and harder to make it to the postseason.
For sure.
Yeah, no, we don't want to go 0-5, 0-6, and make a miracle run. We want to get in there smoothly, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If you have Chase, if Chase was your first round pick, your start wasn't great, most likely, But what are you gonna do? Trade Chase for DJ Moore? Want to bring him up again? Because I'm not. I am. I'm gonna ride or die unless I could get a really damn good trade. Like someone wants to give me Ty Hill right now, okay, but
Yeah,
I'm not getting desperate after 2 weeks, and when I'm 0-2.
yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Like, there's certain guys like Chase. Like, yeah, I mean, Chase he hasn't been great, but it's just like you can't. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna give up Chase for something random just to try to win week 3, right? Because that connection is probably they're more likely to get going at some point than not likely. So, and that's why you took Chase there, right? I mean, it's like he's gonna have some down games, and hopefully those don't keep lasting. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, while we're on the topic,
You could hear the pain in JC's voice.
you can smell the ice through the computer.
I'm sick of taking these ices, man.
If Joe Burrow misses time with injury, what are you doing with Jamar Chase? I'm personally playing him. I didn't draft a guy in the first round to have him sit on my bench. I think he could get it done with any quarterback. Obviously, you'd much rather have Burrow in there, but has been pretty with Burrow. So why the hell not? I'm still playing Jamar Chase. I'm not putting him on my bench, and I'm going down with the ship. If he keeps sucking, it is what it is. I am not benching a guy like Chase. I don't know if you guys have any different opinions on that, Sinker.
I mean, I don't have anyone I can bench him for, man. But no, I mean, if you took Chase that early, like I think we talk about this all the time. It's like you just have to play that guy and hope for the best. I mean, at this point, you I don't know, you can't sit him because who knows? I mean, like if it was tied to Burrow, which I that's what I believe. I think that Chase's production is tied to Burrow. I don't think Burrow was healthy week 1 and 2, and I think you saw that at the end of the game where Burrow was limping off and using the gun on his leg. So I don't think Burrow was 100%. And I think that is why we're seeing this production with Chase decline so much. So I'm not saying going to a backup is going to be better, but who knows? I mean, it's not going to be worse than what you're seeing right now. I think that the floor you have right now with Chase, it's not great, but it's not going to be any worse without Burrow in there. This is kind of, I think, the floor, and you would hope for a better opportunity.
Chase is going to be fine.
For sure.
He's going to be fine. You can lower expectations and be realistic about it if Burrow does miss time. I think this also it should be stated that they played back-to-back divisional games, had bad weather in week 1. Like, that's just how he's fine.
Yeah, that is true.
Let me give you a situation here, T-Step. Say 2 wide receiver league PPR. Say you went Chase and you got Olave on the way back, and you were lucky enough to get Puka. You're not benching Olave. He's got his quarterback. But if Burrow does end up missing the start, Puka is a Monday night game as well, so you can kind of switch in to how you're feeling. What are you going to do in that situation? Are you gonna roll Jamar Chase with the backup, or are you gonna play Puka? Because I said I'm playing Chase no matter what. But if I'm in a situation where my team is looking like, that's a nice situation to be in. But if I'm in that situation, every team's different. So
it's still Chase.
Yeah,
it's still Chase, man. He's a generational prospect. He's an absolute superstar. Puka might be too, but he's not Chase. No brainer.
Easy as that. We're on these quarterbacks. Let's see. It's a time to start picking up the quarterbacks who have exceeded expectations through the first 2 weeks, and bench players like Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, and Justin Fields. Fields. Yes, until we talked about that earlier in the show, and we can keep him on the bench and wait until we see it. And if we see it, good for you. Fields is back, just like last year. They gotta start designing him with some runs. I'm not benching Trevor Lawrence. It was a rough, weird matchup last week, but there's no way I'm benching Trevor Lawrence, and I don't think I'm benching Joe Burrow either. These are guys he took high. Maybe Kirk Cousins. I don't even think I want Stafford's been good, but I don't even think I'm gonna even discuss Stafford over those two guys. Maybe Kirk Cousins if you have him on your bench or you're in a weird league and Kirk Cousins is somehow chilling there. But no, I'm not benching Lawrence. No, I'm not gonna bench Burrow if he's out there. But as far as Fields, yeah, I'll play Cousins, play Stafford over him until I see it. The other two guys, no. Sinker, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm probably, on par with where you are with that. I think Justin Fields, the only thing with Justin Fields is like, I feel like as soon as we get to this point where we're like, we need to bench him, he's going to just like rip off a game for like 150 yards and like rushing. Like that's not out of his range of outcome. And I know the offense, and I think the line is awful. So like, I don't know. That's where I'm pumping the brakes on that. But it really just depends like who is on the waiver, right? Like who are you looking at taking instead of Justin Fields? Like I think Trevor Lawrence has a get right game this weekend. The Kansas City game, I mean, the Kansas City defense has been kind of stingy lately. The first like 2 weeks, like Jared Goff, I think the Lions are going to be what, like maybe a top 5, top 8 offense in the NFL. And the Chiefs like held them pretty well without Chris Jones. Chris Jones comes back and he's not 100% healthy. And Trevor just struggled, man. He didn't have any time to get anything going. And I think that's more so of like the Chiefs defense is going to be better than what I think people think. So yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is in a great bounce back spot in week 3. I also own a lot of Trevor Lawrence, so there might be some bias coming through right now, but definitely, man. I don't know. And then Burrow, yeah, like Burrow, if he's not healthy, like he's probably not going to play this week. If he's going and he's good to go, you got to play him. He didn't look too bad last week. He got going in the second half. Him and Higgins finally started to connect. So, but yeah, I mean, Justin Fields, I don't know. It's like, who are you looking to replace him? I'm interested to hear who you guys think, because let's just kind of take it how like our leagues are on the waiver. You probably have guys like, maybe Jordan Love, like, I don't know, maybe Baker Mayfield, like Jared Goff. Like, what are your guys' thoughts around that? Like, are you
Jared Goff at home, possibly? I like that.
You can answer the question first, but after that, I just kind of want to talk about like where are you pivoting if you're not going to start any of these 3 guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to be long-winded on this because I agree with you guys on everything. I just want to add 2 things. First of all, I with Burrow, I almost feel like if he's not going to be right, I would rather him just have them bench him for next week or for a couple of weeks rather than having to take. That's a very uncomfortable feeling, having to wait until Monday night to have to start him and see how he plays. But that's neither here nor there. For Fields, there's only one thing that I wanted to point out. I just discovered this whenever I was researching for this. But Justin Fields has fewer design run attempts than Baker, Tua, and Jimmy G through the season. We took him as a top 60 or 50 pick or whatever on the premise that he was going to get rushing attempts. He's not getting it, and he's an objectively awful passer. So I think that it pretty comfortably I'm fine with benching him, and it would be completely fine. And I would be comfortable. I would be comfortable starting Stafford. I don't know how rostered Daniel Jones is, but Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, I would probably even go as far as saying Goff and Howe. I think that his floor is so low. I think that he's going to get benched if he doesn't get his stuff together. He can't process the field. He's such a bad passer, a terrible decision maker.
Bears need to design him some runs.
Yeah, definitely.
What is he good at? He's good at running the football. Why are we not designing this guy runs?
It makes no sense.
It makes zero sense.
And we just talked about the Chiefs, right? Like that's this weekend. It's Chiefs Bears. So the Chiefs have held, I think, did Jared Goff even throw he threw 1 touchdown. Jared Goff threw 1 touchdown, and Trevor Lawrence did not throw a touchdown last week. So the Chiefs have held the opposing offenses to 1 passing touchdown. So if they're not designing any run plays, like that game is going to be a blowout. The Chiefs are going to smoke the Bears at home.
Yeah, the 12.5-point favorites.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. That's another thing. Like if you have Fields, like there's not much that's telling me to start him against the Chiefs, honestly, unless there's just nothing on the wire and you don't want to drop anything. I don't know, but
yeah, Goff, I'll start. I would do Goff. Baker, against Philly. I'm not feeling great about that one either, but yeah, Justin Fields not looking great. Back to Burrow, though. He does play Monday night if you're worried about the health and he's your only quarterback. You can pick up a guy like Baker who also has a Monday night game, or even Stafford who's going against the Bengals. Just if you need a quick pivot, if you're on Burrow and for some reason, well, the line shifted. A lot of people think he's not going to play, so definitely keep your eyes on that and definitely have a backup plan. Baker Mayfield and Stafford would be two Monday night guys you can pivot to. We got some Najee questions. Do I start Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Najee? Najee is bunk. So is Clyde. This is not good. This is not great. I'm still starting Najee, unfortunately. I just think he's going to get more work than Clyde. If you can type in some other options, maybe I'd pick someone else. But over these two, it's Najee for me. What about you guys? T-Step?
Yeah, it's still Najee. Even
doesn't feel good.
They're both awful, but at least Najee's going to play 50% of the snaps.
Sinker, you with Najee on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you got to ride with Najee, but it's not pretty. You're hoping for that goal line touchdown, but even on the last night's game, he had the goal line touchdown and he just hit it out, man. It's like, what is this guy doing? Was that last night?
I think it might have been a 2-point conversion, but yeah.
I don't know. I'm whatever, man. After that, I was done. Luckily, I don't have that much Najee, but
bench Najee already, unleash Jalen Warren. I agree. Warren looks so much better than Najee Harris looks. And I think the Steelers see that, and I think it's definitely coming.
I feel like this is very similar to the Chiefs last year, where I think they wanted, they knew they had Pacheco there. Pacheco was getting all the hype. Same with Jalen Warren. Everyone's he looks good in camp. They gave him a couple games to kind of get going. And then after that, it's just you're going to start seeing Warren start to take over. Teams want to win. I know they have Najee the first round invested in him, but I mean, these teams want to win games, man. And Warren, you could tell in the primetime game where it's Najee was on the field, the offense would stall and you bring Warren on and they just start picking up chunks of yards. So it's if we're seeing that as just fans out here, you got to think the coaching staff is seeing that. They're going to make an adjustment as the season goes on.
And they loved Warren to begin with. We knew that coming in. He was one of our later round dart throws. He looked solid last year and looks like he has a chance to take over there in Pittsburgh. Big Lou, you're still watching. Get into these running backs now. If you're living under a rock, all the running backs are dead. It sucks, man. It sucks, but unfortunately, this is a brutal sport. This isn't dance. It happens. But the show must go on. We're the best running backs to target on the waiver wire, and how much fab are you spending? Well, the fab really all comes down to your league. Every league is different. You got to know what your friends are all going to spend. You got to know if they're big spenders or they're stingy, and that could help impact your decision. But Ford's got to be my priority pickup. I mean, we trashed him last week, but Zach Moss is also definitely worth a shot if he's still on waivers. If you are the Chubb owner and you only have one other running back, man, I wouldn't be mad at you if you dished all your fab for Ford.
Are you speaking about yourself right now, Sanj?
Don't worry about it. But Big Lou is asking, man. He was asking, is 96 fab on Ford all right? And I'm yeah, it's all right. It sucks blowing all your fab that early, but if you need a back, you need a back. And Ford looked pretty good when he got his opportunities. We already talked about how I'm not into Kareem Hunt. I think he's washed. I think Fournette. The only thing that would screw Ford is if somehow Jonathan Taylor ends up in Cleveland. But we can't predict the future, and I don't see that happening. So I think Ford's my top priority pickup, and if you're desperate, blow it all, man. And if you're not desperate, maybe 65%, 70%. It's a solid bid for a guy who's going to get a lot of work now that Chubb's down. Sinker, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm with you on Ford. Obviously, especially for the Chubb owner, you need to look at him. The only guy I would have above him is Kyron Williams if he's not rostered in your league. I think that should be the number one target, the number one guy to get. Chubb inactive. Yeah, I mean, he 14 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown. He caught 6 balls for 48 yards and a touchdown. He's the clear number 1 target on the waiver wire for me. And if he's out there, like, I'm spending anywhere from like 80% of my fab. I think that guy straight up can be a league winner. We talked all earlier in the episode about how the Rams and Stafford, they've got it going. It kind of ran through him, honestly. That game did. So I know, like, Puka like had his moments and he got a ton of targets, but Kyron was coming up big in a lot of big opportunities. So he's definitely my number 1. Then yeah, Jerome Ford, rushed 16 times for 106 yards, 3 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned it earlier. I think the Browns are looking at bringing someone else in, and I don't know if Ford will be the workhorse, but if the opportunity's there, you're a Chubb owner, you've got to spend your money on this guy. If we're talking fab, anywhere from 30 to 60% of your fab, depending on your league and where you're at. And then, yeah, I want to talk about Zach Moss a little bit. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts too on Moss. 18 carries and 4 catches, 107 yards and a touchdown. He played like 90% of the snaps, which to me is like, that's ridiculous. I don't think that's going to happen every week. I think that's just a product of like Deion Jackson riding the bench. Yeah, other than that, like Matt Breida, Sanch, I want to have you talk about Breida a little bit, just for my own knowledge a little bit, but is he going to be the guy with Saquon out? And if you're a Saquon owner, how much fab are you spending there? I think 10 to 15% might be where you're looking.
Yeah, that's a fair bid, man. And they're already talking about he's not going to play, but they're already talking about how he's day to day, and it might not even be the full 3 weeks. And we're going against San Fran. You're not going to want to play any of these backs like Breida. You don't want any of these guys against the Niners. I'm glad you mentioned Williams because, it slipped my mind. Most competitive leagues we're in, this guy's already been picked up, but we have to think about the less competitive leagues. If Kyron Williams is out there, I'd blow on my fab too for him. Like, go get him. And if you could get Williams and Ford somehow, cha-ching. Did yourself a damn good, damn solid there. T-Step, any other guys that we didn't mention or anyone you want to talk about?
The only thing I want to add on Ford is JC's mentioned this, or he talked about it last night about being worried about his size. He's actually 5'11", 210. I think that he could actually be the guy, and I mean he played the majority of the passing downs last night while also handling all the base work. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought somebody in, but I do think that if they don't, they're going to run him into the ground. I think that's just kind of how they want their offense to operate, but I could be wrong about that. The only one that I wanted to add on top of that was the Saints backfield. I know it's not extremely lucrative, but Jamal Williams is probably going to miss some time, and we still have another week before Alvin Kamara comes back. Tony Jones scored 2 touchdowns last night. Tony Jones is not good, but if you're in a tight spot, he's definitely worth an ad because he's going to get some work, especially if Kendra doesn't start. I think that the only other running back they have on the roster right now is Kirk Merritt. He's a converted wide receiver. It's Tony Jones if Jamal Williams is out, Kendra doesn't suit up, you can probably start Tony Jones next week if you need to. And if Kendra Miller is available, I think that he's still a great stash too.
Yeah, Taysom Hill on the flex. Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill too.
Always if they're out of running backs, you could take your shot on Hill in the flex. He looked good yesterday. You did say you think they're going to run Ford to the ground. I think the way Stefanski is, I wouldn't be surprised at all. That's what they wanted to do with Chubb. Watson might be ass. He didn't look great. They're going to have to rely on this run game. So, out of all of us, Ford's the top. If Williams is not available, it's Ford. Good stuff, boys. Hopefully we helped you out. You could go stream your waiver wire after the show, and we're hoping your bids get in and you beat all your friends.
Yeah, I think just had one more thing. I think like if all those guys are taken or you don't want to spend and you want to try to get ahead, I think looking at Tajay Spears is a good idea if he's still on your waiver. He's probably not, but if you're in a shallower league and no one's looking at him, he to me is the number 1 handcuff right now because if Henry goes down, he already has standalone usage, I think. But if Henry goes down, I think we're going to be talking about him the same way we're talking about Ford. I think Tajay Spears could absolutely explode on that Titans offense. So that's a guy that could be a sneaky pickup if he's not already taken your league. I think he's taken in every single one of my leagues, but I just wanted to mention that name.
For sure. You see how fast running backs can get hurt, and like Tajay Spears was just like Ford, a late round guy who you just want to stash on the bench in case anything bad happened. It's football. Unfortunately, bad things happen. Something bad happened yesterday, and now we're talking about spending all our fab on this guy. So if you could get ahead of the game, obviously we can't predict the future, but it's a rough sport. So I'd rather clog my benches with guys like that over worthless flex plays that I'll never use. This one, thoughts on the Browns backfield without Chubb. We pretty much went over all of that. We have to wait and see who they bring in and sign, but all three of us like Ford. We talked about Kyron, but he came out of nowhere. Where we rank him for the rest of the season, he's got to be an RB1 now, right? Like these guys are dropping like flies. These guys are dropping like flies. He's in the top 12, and you got to play him until you have a reason not to. It's as simple as that.
That's what I was going to say, like top 12. I mean, honestly, he's definitely an RB1 now. That usage was insane. Rams look good. And another, like, I could see them running him into the ground. Like, why not?
Yeah, I think that we kind of got fooled by, or not fooled necessarily, but McVay just hated Akers. He just could not stand him for whatever reason. But historically, they just want to ride one running back. And even though Kyron is undersized, they trust him, and he's going to get a ton of work. I mean, I agree with you. I thought that it might be a little spicy to say that he's probably a running back one the rest of the season, but I guess it is not, which is crazy.
Yeah. Fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen. Expect the unexpected. Like, if you go back a couple of weeks when we were getting hyped for the draft, like Kyron Williams, Jerome Ford, Puka Nacua, we can't predict the future. We can only use what's in front of us and make our best logical decisions. But, you have to follow the patterns. You have to follow the injuries, and you have to do the right thing. Speaking of injured running backs, David Montgomery is considered week to week. Is Jahmyr Gibbs going to get majority of the snaps? We can only freaking hope so, right? We thought I thought once Monty got down, it'd be a clear-cut Gibbs game last week. Wasn't the case. I know they still want to ease him in slowly, as Campbell says, but he's got to get going eventually, or else this guy's going to be a bust for fantasy. I don't think that's the case. I have him in multiple leagues, and I'm not panicking on Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he will get going. I think Detroit's offense is good. It's clearly good. Obviously, it's only going to get better. They're going to get J-Mo back in a few weeks. You have to play Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously. Like, you drafted him that early. He's not leaving your lineup. Is he going to get majority of the snaps? As I said, I can't predict the future, but we can only hope so. They said they're going to keep easing him in, and his workload is going to increase week by week. But if Monty's out, there's no better time to play Jahmyr Gibbs. So fingers crossed that he does. We talked about Gibbs a lot the last few weeks. But Sinker, do you think he's going to get most of the snaps?
I mean, I would hope so, but I don't know. Dan Campbell is going to do what Dan Campbell wants, and I don't know. I don't know how much. I don't think Gibbs profiles as like a workhorse back, and I don't know if they wanted him to be that guy, right? So I wouldn't be shocked. I think he's going to now, by default, have to get more design runs and run through the tackles, but I wouldn't be shocked if they run Reynolds or someone else. If he's that guy's still getting 6 to 8 touches and runs a game. Like, I'm not gonna if that happens, I'm not shocked. I would hope that Gibbs and if you drafted him where you took him, I mean, this is the opportunity you were kind of looking for, right? For him to take over from Montgomery. So hopefully this is the time, but I don't know. I mean, it's what we've seen through the first 2 weeks. I think you need to kind of be weary of the usage of Gibbs still, even with Montgomery out. But we'll see. I don't know. I just don't trust Dan Campbell. But
I mean, we brought it up before, the Kamara rookie year and the comparison and how it took him a month to get going. I'm still not worried, but we know he's a little undersized, 5'9", 200, a little small for a back. We know he's an electric player, but I don't know if as Gibbs owners, you want him to get 25 touches. You don't want this guy to get hurt, right?
Yeah. I don't
It's
know.
like it's a sticky situation. I don't know if he's going to get majority of the snaps, but I hope he's on the field a lot, and I hope they have a lot of design plays for him. And man, I hope he gets going this week. At home against Atlanta, I think this could be the week. Obviously, without Monty, he's in your lineup, and fingers crossed as a Gibbs owner. And if you have him, sorry.
I just wanted to add some context to like after Montgomery went down, Gibbs. The split was 17 snaps to 10. Craig Reynolds. I was kind of doom and gloom about it too earlier because I just can't imagine why you would play a guy named Craig Reynolds over Gibbs, which you see that guy touch the ball. But and I'm also looking here like in short down and distances. Gibbs still played 50% of those snaps, and Reynolds didn't play any. I think that we might. I think he might be closer to wheels up than being worried about it. I personally think that. He also led the team in targets. Gibbs did this past week, and he is a baller. I mean, like, I think that Sanchi's probably right. You probably don't want him in a role where he's getting 25 touches because he might not be able to hold up to it. But this is why we were taking him in the third round on the premise that either they phase Montgomery out of the offense or he gets hurt. And then he's just an explosive playmaker. He can get there on. I think that it's wheels up for Gibbs.
You can only hope so, brother. Yeah, we need that. We're all rooting for it. We got a few sit-start questions coming in. Steve Smith, Jordan Addison against the Chargers or Brian Robinson against the Bills in the flex? Damn, did Brian Robinson look good last week?
Yeah.
But he's going against the Bills defense that held Josh Jacobs to -2 yards on 9 carries. So you got to temper expectations. I don't think Robinson's going to have the, 87-yard, 2-touchdown game again. But I think I'm still going to start him over Addison. I know Addison scored in his first 2 weeks, but he's not getting enough looks for me right now to feel good about it. Can that change in 1 week or 2 weeks when he starts getting way more? 6 targets, 5 targets. That's actually really close, man. What's the over/under on this Vikings game?
That's what I was just looking at too.
Oh, that's going to be that has like a 50 or a high 40 something. That's like the game of the week.
Yeah, I tend to think that I lean Addison in this game, honestly.
It's 53.5, and I think I lean Addison too. Just looking at that over/under.
It definitely depends on the settings. But yeah, I don't. This game is this game, like T-Step just said. I think it's got the most potential on the slate to shoot out. So, I mean,
one of my bets this week. Sorry to cut you off, but it's Buffalo Bills point total over 26.5. I think they're actually going to smoke the Commanders, and that might phase Robinson out of this game. So I think Addison in that high over/under, and hope for his 3rd straight touchdown. Sorry to cut you off, Sinker. You were saying something?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, the Chargers through the first 2 weeks. I mean, like, we all saw that Dolphins game, right? That hit like a 70-point over/under, or it hit 70 points in the game. And then the Titans, like T-Step was calling that last weekend to me. He thought the Titans had potential to shoot out, and it did a little bit. They got to 27 points, so I don't know.
Could have if Brandon Staley wasn't incompetent.
I kind of like Addison here, honestly. I don't know the settings of the league. I'm assuming it's either a half point or a single point PPR, but in those 2 settings, that's what I would probably lean Addison.
T-Step, who's your guy out of those 2?
This is so tough. I initially, whenever you guys started saying that, I didn't think that it was necessarily that close. I thought that it was clearly Robinson. But looking at stuff again, I don't know. Robinson's workload was pretty good last week, and he looked pretty good. I think that I might actually lean Robinson in that over Addison. I mean, obviously, depending on scoring, if it's full point PPR, I would probably go Addison. If it's half point or standard, I would go Robinson.
Yeah, I don't know who's still playing standard, but
sorry, that just
no, it's okay. I know actually I do know someone who does. In standard, you always lean the running back. That's easy peasy.
It's probably
But-
going to be like standard does like a full swing. Like we're all going to be in like 10 years, we're all going to be playing PPR. Then someone's going to be like, do you want to join my standard league? And we're all like,
Yeah.
dang, yeah, let's do a
running backs are king, baby.
let's do a throwback league. Yeah. Like, you know,
I'm going to change my
leagues.
answer again. I'm going to go Addison on that, on all of them. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this. Brian, it's basically still a dead even split between Brad Robinson and Antonio Gibson. Robinson just ran hot on touchdowns last week.
so there you go, Addison.
Yeah, I mean the Bills locked up Jacobs. I think they're going to do the same to Robinson. I'm taking the young, talented receiver in a game that should have a lot of points. P. Muggs, I think Jordan Addison is a now starter. We just talked about it. Yeah, get him in. He scored his first 2 games in the NFL. Pretty good if you ask me. Is Hunter Henry heating up, or will the flame die out? Hunter Henry's the fine play at this point, man. The tight end situation is horrible, and Henry's been a reliable guy for Mac Jones. Yeah, he's heating up. He had 2 great weeks. He's been scoring too. You ride that flame. I'm not saying it'll stay hot. It might eventually die out, but the way the tight ends are these days, if you have Hunter Henry, play him. Unless you have Kelsey or something. I don't know why you'd roster 2 tight ends if you had Kelsey and he came back, but yeah, if you have Hunter Henry, I think you should play him. You guys agree, Sinker?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, it's a tight end and it's Hunter Henry. So, like, I guess, like, he's heating up a little bit, but he's just touchdown dependent. And that's like any of the other tight ends that you're playing. So, I think him and Mac Jones have chemistry in the red zone. I think it's something to definitely consider. If you've got him, you're probably going to play him. You're not going to drop him or try to pick someone else up. But he's not going to score a touchdown. He's not going to score 16 touchdowns this year. So, and when he doesn't do that, he's going to fall back into line with all the other tight ends that you're streaming. So,
No, who's
that's
not
a
touchdown dependent? Sam Laporta. That boy is nice. And wait till he starts scoring. He's going to have some monster weeks. But sorry to get off topic. T-Steppin, what were you saying, bro?
I was going to say Hunter Henry's peripheral stats are still really strong. Like 91% route participation this last week, 82% on the season. I think that he's shaping up to be a pretty strong tight end play and redraft so far. I mean, I would definitely, like what you were saying, Sanchi, with Laporta, like you would definitely like to have one of those guys that have a lot. Obviously, I have access to a higher ceiling, but I think that Hunter Henry, I think the premise behind him for a long time was him just catching touchdowns, but he's never been a full-time player like this, and he's running a ton of routes. I mean, like, I think that he's fine.
For sure. Like, it's a guy you picked up off waivers or drafted in the last round. He's been scoring. He's been involved. Got to play him. Got a trade question from Jessel. Jessel Jones asks, which trade is better? Trading Chris Olave and Gabe Davis for Rashad White and Gibbs, or trading Olave and Christian Watson and Gibson for CMC?
Yeah.
I want CMC. If, like, you really need a running back, I want the best one.
So a lot. It's hard because we don't know the rest of the roster, right? Because you're trading Olave and Gabe Davis for 2 running backs. So if you're thin at wide receiver, or you need to look at like roster construction. But if we just answer this like where we value these players at, right? I mean, like Olave, Watson, Gibson for CMC. I mean, CMC is like one of a kind, right? He's the best running back in the league right now. He's a cheat code. And his usage is insane. So, he said the roster's in the chat. I don't know. If you can get CMC, you got to get CMC, right? I mean, I think that's where I'm going with this. Even if it's a 3-for-1, like we don't know what Christian Watson's going to do when he returns from injury. I think that Christian Watson is going to still be good. He is nursing an injury, and that can linger all year, which sucks. So you're trading a question mark. Olave is obviously a stud, but CMC is a straight up league winner. So I think it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I think I'm leaning that way. But again, like, what if Gibbs is like CMC light, right? You know, you get Rashad White, who's getting tons of volume, and you get Gibbs.
I would always be on the side of, we don't know the roster settings. If it's a deeper league, I am always in favor of depth. But in this instance, like your depth doesn't matter that much. If you're able to get CMC on your roster, especially for what you're giving up there, you do it.
Yeah, I'm looking at his roster, and he had Montgomery, who went down. Right now, he has Kelly and Tajay Spears as his running backs. I'm going for CMC. List all these players down and tell me which player you want the most. It's Christian McCaffrey. I'm trading for CMC.
What's his wide receivers?
He has Waddle.
Okay.
Who, could miss a week or two.
And Kelly, Kelly got shut. Kelly didn't have the big breakout game, but I think a report came out today where Eckler is like, they don't know his return. Like, they haven't made an announcement. Like, so he might be out longer than we think. And they
play the Vikings this week.
Exactly. And that could be like, this is the smash Kelly game. Like, you knew that picking Kelly up, like this last week was going to be tough. I think Kelly's going to be great, man. So, like, yeah. And you have Chase. Dude, if you have Waddle and CMC, you go get CMC, man. That's
for
100%.
That's a no-brainer, I think.
Yeah.
All right, this is another Olave question. Olave or Puka in my flex. Also have Devontae Smith and Jefferson. As much as we gassed up Puka, you got to play Chris Olave. And if things shift and Puka still, lights the league on fire, and Olave slows down, then you can make that choice. But week 3, I'm playing Jefferson, Devontae Smith, and Olave. And I will add that that's absolutely stacked. So congratulations, Lou. Any of you guys playing Puka over Olave? It's tempting. I love Puka, man. That is so tempting.
I don't know, man. I think I might go Puka. Like, how can you not follow that volume? Like, unless anything changes. Like, what you said earlier, 35 targets in 2 games.
Yeah,
like that's absurd. Like, if you just take the names away of the guys, which probably is not the right fantasy thinking, but if you just take the names away and looked at their player profiles, you would 100% pick Puka to play. Like, that would be your guy. So I don't know. I know Olave is a stud, but I think you follow the volume until the volume falls off, and I think Puka is the guy. You're already starting Devontae Smith and Jefferson. You're safe there. So why not go for the home run with Puka?
Yeah, Chris Olave, wide receiver 13 after 2, 38th overall. Puka, I think he's the wide receiver 2, number 3 overall. So maybe I just have some bias. Olave's a stud. What I would recommend here is maybe trying to dish one of them for a running back if you can, and if you're weak there, see if you can work out a trade. But this is a great problem to have, Lou, because obviously, as we've been seeing injuries happen, so at least if one of these guys goes down, at least you have some insurance there. Great problem to have. T-Step,
what do you think?
I was trying to look and see how these guys project fantasy point wise. I'm also looking at just market shares on teams, and Puka has a 39% target share. That's just absolutely insane. Olave has a 32% target share too, though. I mean, really, you can't make a wrong decision if I'm being honest. But I would probably still lean Olave too. But I think that if you could find a way to deal one of those guys, I mean, it also depends on your roster. If you have no clear needs, just hold them. And then if you have an injury, you still have an elite 3 wide receiver set there. But I would still lean Olave in that starter set.
He's saying his running backs are Brees, Montgomery, and Cook, and now Monty's hurt. See if you could cook up a trade for one of them for a back, man. It doesn't hurt.
I also think I think those backs are fine. Honestly, you could kind of just ride the wide receivers. I think Brees is definitely, if anyone after last week wants to sell him low, I think he's an easy buy right now.
Yeah, I agree.
They gave him 4 carries against Dallas, an elite defense that no one expected the Jets to win that game, man. We all knew it was going to be a rough game. Garrett Wilson somehow got one, but we all expected that one to be rough. And I'm a Brees guy. That's pretty much once Chubb went down. I can't announce it officially, but in my head, my guy is Breece Hall. You know what I'm saying? So, Breece Hall to the windows, to the wall. All right. Just want to say thanks to everyone for chatting in, tuning in with us live. You guys mean everything to us. Keep us going. We love doing this. Got one more. What are your bold takes for week 3? Someone give me a spicy one.
I got some scorchers.
Let me get a scorcher.
I'm going to say Isaiah Pacheco, 100 yards and 2 scores.
Dang, cooking. All right, I'll say this is a spicy one. I think Josh Reynolds is going to outscore Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think St. Brown is I think he has a toe issue right now, and I don't think they're talking very publicly about it. But there was footage on Twitter where they're putting a steel plate in his foot and wrapping his toe. He's probably going to play. He's going to be all right, but don't be shocked if our boy Josh Josh Reynolds outscores him. So just a spicy take.
I'm gonna get real spicy. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 tutties. 3 of them.
Right.
You want to get spicy? These are hot takes for a reason, man. How about this? New York Giants, they beat San Fran. Danny Dimes, baby. Who called in last week? Who called in last week?
I know. He didn't call in again today. I was waiting on the call.
Josh? You know, I got real nervous because Kirk Cousins, had a monster game on Thursday. I'm like, all right.
The great one, right? That's what his name was?
Yeah, for the title of the great one. But you know who had a better game? Daniel Stephen Jones, comeback king. It's gonna be a hell of a season to watch moving forward, man. I can't believe we're already through 2 weeks. Time freaking flies. A lot is changing. We'll be here every week to talk about it. You'll see us panicking, chugging Smirnoffs, and just talking football,
Hopefully
man.
not, but
We love talking football. Just want to say thank you, T. Steppen. Welcome to the show, man. We're gonna have you back on next year if you're cool with it. The invite's there. If you want to take a minute, tell the people what you're about. If you have a Twitter or something, they can find you. Floor is yours, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm not super familiar with StreamYard. I would put my Twitter handle in there. Not that it matters. All I do is to complain about football whenever things aren't going my way.
So like 90% of fantasy Twitter, right?
Yeah, there's no insight or anything positive on there. It's just me bitching and complaining about things not going my way. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a blast. Thank y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, bro. So come on, Jahmyr Gibbs. I need 3 tutties. That's all I gotta say. For T. Steppen, for Sinker, for P. Muggs, good luck this week. Let's get these wins. We are Fantasy Fanline. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we're not chugging Smirnoffs. Peace.